So basically, if I say that that in reality that the communication system of government has broke down, that they followed suit, and their phone systems do not follow any form of logical manning. It's a problem. This is a problem. And part of the problem for this is insurrection. You have people that end up catching people committing crime on the phone. People call in and say, hey, look, this is what happened. And you have FBI people that hang up the phone or say, oh, well, mail us a letter and we'll review it in 3 to 6 weeks and decide then whether we want to pursue it. And you have people that are like, but you don't understand. This is an active item that has to be pursued now. Like for, take some of my case stuff, for instance. Somebody robs an archive and it's like, I don't know how much has been immediately taken. I've got a raw idea. So you call them up and say, yeah, tens of millions of dollars in archive material is definitely missing. Pertains to national security, pertains to elections, pertains to court research, case research, all kinds of stuff. And they're like, we don't care. In a nutshell, we don't care. And it's like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. This is an immediate rollout. So, in other words, what these people just did is commit a major felony on the phone. You said national security is violated. The proof's right here. You need to roll out. Come out, take some photographs, do some fingerprints. Let's get this investigation underway. And by the way, several items obviously can be selected as evidence. Look at the damage to this, put it in the bag, put a tag on it, and you've got evidence. So you're going to end up with fingerprints, destruction, photographs of destruction, photographs of tires, photographs of footprints. You're going to have photographs of items that are damaged. You're going to have samples of items that are damaged. So, and again, national security has been violated, right? That's a mandate. You have to roll on this, this is an archive. You have to roll on it. I'm all upset about this, and we're talking, and I track back and look at stuff later on. It's tens of millions of dollars that quickly come up and say, no, that's missing. It's tens of millions. And then we keep going. It's like, oh, no. It's hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. Because it's like, oh, no, they destroyed this case research and they destroyed this certain evidence. And some of it can be recaptured. Some of it maybe not. So you got damage occurring. Designs, research, the just click keeps going up and up and up. Now compare that to apparently there's a bank robbery. Somebody goes into a bank, they have some kind of minimal disguise on. They put a piece of paper down with writing on the counter that says fill up the bag. And these people are like, oh, they have a gun. But nobody sees a gun. But they fill up the bag. And I believe the most successful bank robber types, they do one bag, one teller, and they split. They're gone. They get the money, and whoop, they're out of there. And, that's the way a lot of these used to work. Some of them now, you couldn't do that. They're behind 2 inches of Lexan. There's no way that you could rob a teller at some of these certain banks now. Just couldn't happen. But this is not to say that there aren't banks that are still, capable where people can rob them. So, they can grab a bank person walk, in a bank, and they can hold a gun to the side of their head right in front of a teller and put a bag in and say, fill the bag up or I blow their brains out. And these people are going to fill the bag up, But still, essentially, here's what happens. The call comes in. Yes, there was bank got robbed. They show up. There's no witnesses that saw a gun. They have tape of the individual. They can see you put a piece of paper down on the counter. The teller says, yeah, it said fill the bag up. And then they quickly left, and that's it. It's over with. So by the time the FBI gets the word on it, local law enforcement is already rolling. But FBI is going to show up anyhow. It's a bank robbery. So you end up maybe having like upwards of 28 locals and like 4 to 7 FBI agents, that are basically going to verify things. They're just going to do the deal that way. And so it's immediately rolled on. Now, if you add up the money and you say, wow, it's $300 per man hour, that's so you sit there and go, the 28 guys were there for, some were less, some were more, some were there for an hour, and then the second hour there was only like 6 or 7, but then the FBI is there for an hour. So you add all this up, and it's like this vast sum of money. It's like, wow, they're spending $25,000-$30,000 investigating a bank robbery, where the theft was only like $20,000-$30,000. So they're immediately spending as much money or more than what was just stolen. Keep this in mind. But compared to my situations, national security is violated. Vast sums of money in damage have been done, and they don't want to roll on it. And they ask questions, and all of a sudden they're convinced. Oh no! Oh, that sounds like. Oh, how dare you try to gather evidence against our man Trump? Click, hang up the phone. And it's like, well, what's up with this? What is up with this policy of people putting strange politics, procedurals in the way? In other words, if there is a problem, you have to address it properly. In other words, like with me, so here you have a huge breakdown. Dereliction of duty. You read the Constitution articles. It's mandatory to protect archives. It's mandatory to protect national security. It's mandatory to protect candidates. So immediately when you have the FBI or Justice Department not roll out to these situations where they can immediately take photographs, get samples, open up Ziploc bags, put samples in, tie it up, put a tag on it, get the photographs, get fingerprints. It's all right there, and they don't want to roll on it. So you have a situation where these people are committing major constitutional violations. Major. There's no other, I defy anyone. Read the Constitution, read the articles, after what you just heard me say. Yeah. That's a pretty decent looking bike, actually. So the comparison here is that there's lots of other ways to look at this stuff. So when you investigate this kind of stuff, it goes on and on. In other words, if you have a bunch of Democrats attack a campaign location, you don't want them sending a bunch of Democrats. You want Republicans to come out. And then, of course, vice versa. If you have a bunch of Republicans attacking a Democratic headquarters, you want Democrats to come out. So now you have people say, oh, well, that would be biased. No, wrong. Oh, yeah, it's biased. You're being biased. No, wrong. That's the reverse. It's the reverse, You don't call up the wolf, you don't call up the Wolf's Lodge and say, hey, we had some wolves come out here and do the deal. We need you guys to come down here and take a report. You don't do that. There's no logic in that. The logic is, statistically, statistically that these people will screw up, that statistically they will give a poor performance. Now, granted, it's not an absolute. I mean, you've got a lot of people out there. You've got, well, there's a bunch of examples out there. You got Robert Mueller, Republican, straight ethics. You got a bunch of different FBI guys in the news, arresting maybe Congress people, sometimes senators. And the reality is that it's basically, these people committed crimes, and you do have agents that they're pure ethics. So you do have Democrats that will arrest Democrats, So you have a lot of these, different things where it's actually works the way it's supposed to work, but the reality is it's not working the way it's supposed to work. And a lot of people in government are not being upfront about that. So you end up with all these statistics. So back to statistics. So when you have the Justice Department screw up and people are like, I don't believe they just did that, it's mandatory for them to roll. They just got into dereliction of duty. They're facing possible treason charges, possible death penalty. We're in an insurrection. And, so now you have, no matter what the crime is, you have people that end up calling attorneys. I want an opinion on this. So what usually happens is the way things work now is for some reason you can't get directly through to the right kind of attorneys. Advertising's a huge bait and switch. People are paying money. You have internet marketing and algorithms get in the way so that all of a sudden people are encouraged, or in some cases forced, to go to a sponsored connection because that's all that's there. It's weird. So now you're having people that what they're actually doing is they're a case mill, they're just there's just a mill to, it's like a boiler room, if do you know what a boiler? Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. 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 So basically all these people are getting interviewed and they'll tell what their cases are about. They'll tell what they've witnessed. They'll tell the way that government employees acted. So now you have all of these raw statistics that you can access and get a hold of. If you have money and you say, we want to study criminal patterns of all natures because we want to understand this because we're attorneys, this information's available. So this is how you end up with people getting a hold of, using money to get a hold of this data and figure out even the local demographics, but definitely statewide and national demographics of what's happening. So if you know what those statistics are, when you realize that there are areas where 8 out of 10 people that are entitled to immediate emergency federal agent assistance, justice assistant, as an immediate rollout, and they don't get it, then this is, attorneys are looking at this. They're going, these people's civil rights are being violated. The Constitution's being violated. These statistics keep growing and growing and growing. So somebody could sit there, like with, now you could use language models that have a bunch of agents in them and say, I need you to make a list of these statistics. I mean, that's what some of these things do. Before it was done certain ways, there were certain other ways, and it was you typed in certain things, and it would search certain labeling. But of course, certain other data, personalized information, is basically kept out. So this is how you can have politicians run all around the country and constantly whine about how corrupt the government is, because they have endless material that's actually real. So if you look at the deeper look, in other words, with, and say, gee, you don't need to know the exact person's identity, but that might help. But if you know what's going on regionally, regional demographics, then you can talk about the anomaly factors where people are getting screwed around. And I've seen Trump do it a lot. He does it a lot. So he does these generalizations and then says, well, come on, yeah, we all know it's true. You all know it's true, right? I mean, you got a friend, somebody, ask around. Tell a friend. You've seen that happen, tell a friend about it. So now all these people are exchanging information. Yeah, I know somebody, this happened. And then now some people complain that there's also a bunch of information being falsely generated. But there's actually a whole bunch of truth to the fact that the justice system is broken. Now, why it's broken, you have Democrats that are going to point fingers and say, it's the Republicans who broke the system. And you're going to have Republicans look over and point at Democrats and say, no, it's the Democrats that are breaking the system. It's everything that they've done. So you have this politics back and forth, and now you have mass anomaly statistics repeatedly equating out to people personally identifying to things that have been said. So you have all these people that end up finding somebody that they know of where some of these things have happened to them. Or maybe they've happened to themselves and they get on Twitter and they share it. So there's actually this huge percentage of truth to the sheer fact that long-term belief is from the 60s that the government people are trying to keep you down and that they've weaponized the system against you has been believed, again, since the late 60s. But we also have the statistical evidence of raw statistics that show that that's exactly what's happening. So this is how you have people, again, gaining ground. They're around, well, it's true. That's true. Ask around. But the thing is it's like, like with me, when I stand up and people go, oh, you're an election denier. I'm like, what? Look here. Did you see the evidence? Okay, let's go slow. What is this? And what is this? And what is it? Right. Okay, and that's what? It's evidence? Yeah. Yes, it's evidence. Okay, yes. And these are the people involved, and this is what they did. Or these are the people so far we've figured out who are involved. These people over here, Julie Sue wouldn't follow orders of Congress, blacklisted. You have other people in government that ordered incomes shut down. So this is a statewide thing. So then you have other people who don't want to cooperate on supportive evidence. The Secretary of State's office, they have evidence in hand that's needed to verify. And by the way, as a candidate who's come under attack, I want them to verify this. I also need their direct assistance to front me the money needed to get on the ballot, because I have a 100% blocking of my usable income by the state itself and by state employees. And then they're in dereliction of duty. They refuse to help. Well, the Constitution says that these people are aiding and abetting first, definitely in dereliction, but beyond that, they're involved in election rigging. They're involved in acts of war against the candidate. It's right in the Constitution. It's right in the articles. You don't go the muster. If musters go to the camp and do damage or destroy a business and the income, whatever, that is an act of war. These are acts of war. With me, it's very vivid. It's very vivid. Here's a bunch of samples of violence. Look at all this extreme violence. Undeniable. It's been on the web for, last couple of years. Undeniable. And then when I put these things back out, here it is, someone's listening to this, and here it is, it's right here. There's evidence all along the way. It's undeniable. I got people shooting at me and everything. So you have these people that are saying, you're election denier. And I'm saying, Well, no, that's not the case. I have lots of evidence of what these people have done, what they've involved themselves in, their derelictions of duty or whatever their participation is, blacklisting or whatever. And it's definitive. It's definitive evidence. So, it's so he says, but you're still election. No, I'm not an election desire. Let me help explain this to you. I want my votes. You understand? I'm not supporting anybody else on this deal. I want my votes. Why? I'm a candidate. I want my votes. You can't shut down a candidate's income. You can't shut all income areas down. Stay-at-home orders, lockdown orders, and then end up causing so many problems that it's causing an entire fleet of mobile broadcast RB units to get destroyed because they're archive units. That's a separate series of felonies, by the way. So it's probably, you got a candidate series of felonies, they're committing, acts of war. All these different things lay out multiple levels. These people are screwed. And the justice system is only threatening. They refuse to act. They don't even need, the law says that my presence isn't even necessary. I have put ample evidence out publicly and laid out things of, well, this, check this out. They don't need, attorneys have told me this repeatedly, your presence is not required. Part of protecting you, a candidate, from harassment is when you have strong definitive evidence. These people are supposed to go to work, not be in dereliction of duty. There's this huge evidence that's going out again and again and again. So you get to this point where you end up having all these witnesses that have seen this evidence. The media's got copies of the evidence. What is the media doing? Is the media investigating acts of war against the candidate? Is the media understanding there's been attempts against my life? It's a RICO situation. We have decentralized attackers. And these people in the state are people that have committed acts of war and blacklisting and have absconded with money that Congress ordered pay, but these people are also responsible for shutting down the income of a business. This is how you end up having things get worse and worse and worse to the point where you're coming under violent attack. You don't know whether these violent attackers are Democrats or Republicans. You start to investigate it. At first, it seemed like some of these people, there was some evidence, were Republicans. But now, at this point, because you have all these Democrats over here that are busted 9 ways from Tuesday. I mean, look at Julie Sue, busted, connected to $31 billion in fraud. $31 billion, and at the same time, she's shutting down communication and blacklisting people that are candidates. She's refusing to adhere to the continuity of communications of government. She's violating COG, continuity of government. She's violating continuity of elections, COE. And we have an insurrection. It's mandatory for communication lines to be open and available for candidates that need crucial services. We have an insurrection. Double down with, we have a pandemic. They're doing things that are not allowed. They're taking actions that are defined by the Constitution and Articles as dereliction of duty, aiding and abetting other parties. You have the AG's office refusing to prosecute people. So, hey, look, these people did this, and this. You have to arrest these people. The Secretary of State, California, it's supposed to be their job to protect the process of elections, but they don't. What's wrong with these people? These are major. This is not a game. These are major violations. This is not, oh, we're so sorry, sir, here's a small check. This is, hi, how are you doing? You're under arrest for aiding and abetting an attack on an archive. By the way, it's right here in the Constitution. Here, you read it? See it? Right here, right here? Yeah, and it has mandatory death penalty charges. And they'll say stupid stuff. Like, well, there's no death penalty in California. You can't do that. And you have to explain to them, well, number one, what you're probably quoting is a finding by a judge that says that California can no longer do the death penalty. That's the one. What does it actually say? And it's like, let me tell you what it says. I've seen a little bit of it. I can recall some of it, Lucy. It says that the management of California effectively is so inconsistent and unpredictable that it causes extended waits of time, which are considered cruel and unusual punishment. And therefore, on that basis, California can't be trusted to manage executions. Therefore, they're canceling California's right to manage executions. So, see, here's the thing. This is what they're failing to understand. When it's not the jurisdiction solely of California, that ruling doesn't apply. Like if I go in and say, hi, how are you doing? This is my constitutional powers right here, presidential candidate panel. I can do seizure, arrests. Here, look it up yourself. You're supposed to be attorneys and smart people. Can never be removed from the books. There's good stuff here. And, I can do all kinds of neat stuff. Even says you can do torture. No, you can't do torture. The word torture is discussed as to among the items where the definition is whatever is deemed necessary. You're talking about invasion and insurrection, saving the core of the country. And people are missing this. That's a separate level of understanding than basic understanding of prisoner management. And those other rulings are separate business management. But, I can argue that all day long with people. Like, okay, look, I'll give you a break, okay? I'm not interested in torturing people. I just want to force them into fMRI lie detectors and put a bunch of pharmaceuticals in them and get to the truth. That's simple enough. That it's worked fairly well in serial killers. It's a reasonably proven technology to come out with some various fragments of definitive truth. Why not? Still the powers that I have say that I can sequester. I can order courts and sequester courts. We're a state court. What part about the Constitution are you missing? What part of constitutional powers granted are you missing? When I file presidential candidate panel, I can sequester. So if I send you a letter and you're sequestered, yeah, well, I get rolling. Yeah, there's a lot of frustration. It's the personal involvement factor. Yeah, personal involvement factor. Gee, I guess I can handle other people's cases, but, that's not me. But, yeah, no, what, you want me to say I'm sorry? Does that do it for you? Does that cut it? Okay, look. Okay. But no, seriously, I can sequester these people. It's closer to Simon Says. It's thou art commanded, basically, is what the situation is, comparatively in short. So yeah, I want you to handle this, but I'm keeping strings tied. Straight out. I'm keeping strings. And if I don't like the way it goes, it says right in, if I don't like the way that these things transpire and are handled, I can redo it. Double jeopardy does not apply. So, it says double jeopardy does not apply in that area. Look at those areas again. I'm telling you, double jeopardy does not apply. So, and there's a bunch of other things. Nobody's immune from a presidential candidate panel. Nobody's immune. No judge, no congressperson, no senator, not even the president of the United States. It's specifically mentioned. It's one of the few areas where you have panel and court powers, full trial powers, to enforce whatever is deemed necessary, with endless appeal power. Endless. No limit. Double jeopardy doesn't apply, and it has the power. I have the power, according to this, to directly, even if necessary, prosecute the President of the United States. This is something that people are missing out on. And you have people that want to go in rebellion. And I'm telling you, man, read the Constitution, read the articles. These people don't want to do that. You do that, and all of a sudden it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Let me explain this. You can't do this or else. Does that mean anything to you? Because the flip side of it is, technically, you can sit there and go, okay, meeting. What do we do with this? Let's read it and look it up. It says we can use up and including deadly force to repel these parties. So these people are coming up saying, no, we're in charge. No, you're not in charge. You have no authority. You are also, by the way, under our thumb. You will take orders from us, period. They're just not getting it. Well, why do you want to give us orders? You have no right to give us orders. Excuse me. First of all, why would I want to give you orders? You're not even trustworthy. You're sitting there whining. You apparently haven't read the Constitution of the United States or the Articles. How are you of any use to me? How are you of any use to protect the Constitution of the United States when the first thing you do is you start talking the wrong way and you're violating your oath? So, yeah, well, yes, but yeah, no, yeah. Okay, fine, I'll stop saying yeah. That's yeah too many times. Okay. I can't use okay either? You're going to make this tough, aren't you? So yeah, no, it's getting late here. I know I did it again. But there's kind of the run through of some of this, and once again, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. You try to communicate with these people. You send them documents. You communicate with them over the phone. You ask them, nicely, can you just communicate like normal human beings and just be honest about the situation? And they think they're being honest. It's like, no, you're not being honest. First of all, we have dereliction of duty. Money's needed. Do you want to make an offer, an emergency management budget offer? Something in good faith here to protect the process of elections? No, they don't want to do this. See, that's what bothers, is the fact that they are not doing anything to show intent that they're actually sorry and that they actually want to do something that's correct. It's an endless item. So why should I consider leniency on people that show all this negative intent? It's like they all want to clam up and they're criminals. But they want to be government employees and even people that are part of the justice system. And it's like, look, that doesn't work. You can't be a criminal and part of the justice system at the same time. Well, our policy says that we can't investigate spies, saboteurs, people who committed acts of war. Those are personal items. No, they're not. You're saying that you can't investigate and assist and protect archives? No, we can't do that. Our policy says, I says, you have to understand, you're quoting a policy that is diabolically opposed to the Constitution of the United States. You just confessed to the ultimate diabolical opposing of the Constitution of the United States. You claim you have taken an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States, and here I am putting it on the table, and I have command power to order you to comply, and you are showing no respect. You are showing no understanding whatsoever, and you're being diabolically opposed. Well, we have to defend government employees. I said, so therefore you have to disenfranchise every California voter? You know, that's, what is that, 10, 14 million voters? I think it's over 14 million voters. You can't do that. You cannot protect, you cannot say 14 million voters cannot be protected. We're going to protect one potential employee that might have committed a crime. We're going to stop you from getting resources that you need to roll out and recover items that are stolen. I mean, you know, would you like to help these people load the hard drives from the archives that are national security material directly on the Russian jets? You know, and I mean, oh, that's being ridiculous. I says, no, it's not. You don't have the right to turn me down. It's in the Constitution, the Articles, number one. However, look, I have asked you nicely, very nicely, to adhere to your constitutional oath and to attempt some kind of reasonable logic. You know, literally. Can you please make a rational point of logic here? They just flatly refuse. And, the thing is you try to explain this and remind us, do you understand that the Constitution articles in these specific areas, they don't have any leeway? This so-called policy you're talking about is an illegal document. It's a confession. Do you understand? There is zero leeway. You are now in mandatory death penalty territory. What is wrong with you? You are going to aid and abet foreign and domestic spies at the theoretical level, completely opening up the tactical table. We don't know that there's spies there. I says, that's part of my point. We don't. But your policy is a zero investigation. You can't have a zero investigation because now you're saying there's a total collapse of protecting candidates, protecting the process of elections, protecting archives, protecting artifacts. Read the Constitution and Articles. Mandatory death penalty area. What's the matter with you? These people, basically, I'm just going to say it. We need to set examples. You can just give, all this time I'm giving these people, all generously, all this time. They're at the end game of this. Eventually, what needs to be done is people will have to end up being selected. They'll have to be selected, publicly displayed, and publicly executed to prove that there's still a commitment to protect the Constitution of the United States and protect the integrity of this nation. That's interesting because my understanding for years and years and years is the majority of people want that. The majority of people don't want death penalty for themselves if they're accused. Oh, no, no, no. But as far as leadership and examples being made of and holding leadership accountable, it's exactly what people want. They want to see people get punished for ridiculous wrongdoings. Now, when you go amongst the leadership, it's amazing. Apparently, the leadership wants to come up with endless excuses and say, "Oh, well, we are immune." I mean, stupid stuff. I did first phase of 4-phase actions. I did a rule from the bench. I used material where the judge confessed in writing to refusing to accept documents into court. The material pertained to pertaining to national security and other things that had acid on it. I said, hey, there's basically, part of my presentation is missing. There's acid on this stuff. Emergency managed budget have to be granted immediately. And this is a situation. And all these other people become my insurer automatically. And, yada, 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 they don't want to log evidence into record. What's wrong with that? What kind of judges can you have that don't want to log things in record? Or they don't want the court to be a court of record. Oh, we've decided today that it's not going to be a court of record. You can't compel a candidate to appear in a court of non-record. What are you doing? I mean, absolutely ridiculous, Suing judge, they're going, well, the judge is afforded complete immunity when he sits on the bench for anything he does. Wrong. The Constitution of the United States says no judge, nor congressman, nor senator, not even the President of the United States, is immune. These people, they just don't get it. It's just not clicking in their head. These people are just pushing the log too far here. You're just pushing the burning log too far into the dock, and in order to save all of the restaurants and all the buildings that are on the dock from being burned down, we're going to have to take action. These people go, well, we got guns. We have to push this burning log into. We're not going to have a choice. You won't cease and desist your diabolical opposing to the Constitution. We're not going to have any choice. But at the end of this, go through, publicly embarrass these people. Publicly embarrass them for what they have done. Strip them of their retirement, their citizenship, everything, and say, yeah, you've committed treason, and it's mandatory death penalty. Here's your preacher over here. You can have 5 minutes to talk to the preacher. You're going to be executed. And then just, film it. Have a public filming of the execution. This is really where we're going. And the whole, and the thing is you bend over, it's like you bend over backwards. You try to be so generous repeatedly. And these people just keep having criminal intent after criminal intent, layer after layer, just adding on more and more criminal intent, and they just don't want to stop. And you look at this and you're doing it again and again and again separately and again and again. And it's like, look, you have no remorse for the crimes you're committing, and it's right there in the text. Treason trials, no excuses, no technicalities are allowed. The attorney can't even lie for their client. They lie for their client. They have to stand with their client. By the way, that's nasty, by the way. If somebody gets caught aiding and abetting somebody else that's under a treason trial situation, they have to, that's called stand with. There's no separate trial. This is really interesting. You read it, they have to stand with. This basically means that if people get caught doing certain stuff, and some people say, oh, well, they're entitled to a separate trial. No, you're not getting a separate trial when you're forced to stand with. That's your client's right here on the side. Okay, yeah, you just screwed up. Go stand behind your client. You now stand with them. By the way, shut your mouth. Everything depends upon what happens with your client now. If your client's found guilty and gets the death penalty, you die too. That's the way that works, And these people are just like, they just really have to push it. They have to really ridiculously push it instead of being reasonable to begin with. And that's what shows criminal intent. Vicious criminal intent. Evil criminal intent. And this is what we have in leadership repeatedly when you look at this. All these types of diversionary tactics to get away from the main point, the main points, And when you get to the point where it's treason trial, it's an absolute. It's technicalities, excuses, those are not allowed. Oh, we were late, there was an accident on the freeway. I'd hear that. Okay. That's perfectly believable. Okay. These things happen. That's reasonable. But yeah, they want to make some weird excuses. Excuse me, you've been diverting our attention for 2 hours asking questions that have nothing to do with the logical pertinence of one of these particular witnesses. Why are you developing footage on frivolous questions that have nothing to do with the main topic? Absolutely ridiculous. They do this. These people do this, and it's like, but you don't have a point there. You're cross-examining witnesses that made a statement, and their statement says that they witnessed directly somebody tell somebody something, and that's it. That's it. That's the whole thing they're witnessing. And then that was used to pull cell phone records, and here's the cell phone records. So yeah, I saw him, talk on the phone and text somebody, copy, and boom, there it is. Yet somebody wants, they're so ridiculous, they will use these ridiculous tactics and say, hey, look, if you do that in a treason trial, it's not allowed. You do that in a treason trial, by the way, do you understand, we're going to order you to stand with your client over here now. I'm going to put a gag in your mouth. You just go stand over there. You're sitting here wasting time. These people think that they can do a rope-a-dope and manufacture a bunch of false information that they can somehow edit and put around that has no relationship whatsoever connected to the point of truth. It's like, all the material that I have has truth core connection understanding. It's all connected in the arguments. But these other people, they'll invent stuff. Excuse me, you've been asking this person questions for 2 hours. The only thing is they witnessed somebody say something, and that's all that they're down for. But you want to ask them all kinds of stuff about different dates, and then get all excited and makes like you're doing some kind of a clown show, or you're all excited. Oh, you say you never heard this. This never happened on this date. You're inventing things that have nothing to do with the subject material whatsoever. You're completely diverting away from the main point, which is against the rules. And this is who a lot of these people are. It's just absolutely ridiculous what these people do and what they think they can get away with all over the place. So it's going to be a hard one. You're going to have to shock people, my grandfather, people say, you have to hold one or two or three of them accountable, and then the rest will get back in line again. They'll start behaving at least a little bit, So, I think that our forefathers were smart. They knew this. They only had a 38-year longevity. Keep that in mind. We lived 78 years. They only had a 38-year longevity. They'd get pissed. They have no time to sit there and listen to people fabricate 2 hours of BS. That's why they specifically mentioned it. Don't go off topic. Not for 2 hours. And yeah, by the way, don't try to invent. Don't try to do a grandstand inventing false information so you can do a custom edit and try to use a media war play. So they can say, look, this person said here 97 times that they didn't see anything, that this never happened. That's not why the people were brought in the court. Yeah, they didn't see these things. Yeah, they were there and they heard this person talk about it. The existence of other documents, other communications. That's all it was about. That's the reason to believe to go over here. But they invent these other things that have nothing to do with the topic. So yeah, it's getting late. It's getting late. Okay. Oh, I said it again. Yeah, sorry, no. That judge item. Well, it was a direct showing, basically, for me to say they said this right here. Yeah, I got a little distracted there. They said, what I said was they said right here. Here's a copy of the official documents. Right here. Here's the section. They say this. Bang. And so right here they say that the judges are 100% immune. There's no such thing as immunity. It says no. Over here it says in the Constitution there's no such thing as immunity. I can even prosecute a president if I have to. And then also over here it's documents were refused to be posted. That's a violation. Also, the issue deals with an archive that had acid from a man-made disaster. And the court is told, every second that is delayed, more damage from acidic chemicals, damaging archive material that pertains to national security. That's two items. Number one, it's an archive. It has to be protected, no matter what. So... And number two, it pertains to national security. So here we have somebody making excuses to delay and not to allow documents showing these facts. Not to show, so, well, this document here is official, recognized United States protocol to deal with exactly this kind of decision. This is the approved protocol by the person who invented it, that is certified by the federal government. And they don't want to allow this. They don't want to allow these into record. And then so there's like 13 total items, but when you're doing an action, you're not required to mention all the items. No, read it's in the judicial it's in the judiciary. It's in the judicial. Yeah, it's near the end of this. It's. I got it someplace. There's a point that says that you do not have to include all evidence and consideration in a decision, and you can rule from the bench as well. But it's expected that you show some kind of sampling, which I did. Which I clearly did. I clearly showed enough. I got these things down to like 2 pages a document. This is pretty good. I got the support documents and I got 2 pages, which is a summary judgment. Partial summary judgment. So additional actions are required. And yeah, it's just, it's no, that's you're wrong. And the judge said it right here. And you're saying it again right here. So you are testifying that this judge is claiming this right here. And then you're claiming the same thing. And then right here it says clearly, right here, Constitution articles, that's not allowed. And then there's all these other violations, and I don't know how many I went in. I know I went into 3 major items. I think I might have mentioned 7 out of the 13 or something. Well, there was several different ones that I did, and on judges, so you can't do this. You cannot violate your constitutional oath, which the judge did. So I mean, there's nothing like going into a court and say the Constitution says this, and they're like, I don't care what the Constitution says. The effect that somebody can be sitting behind a bench and take that attitude, want to edit everything out, want to cancel a court from being a court of record, cover up everything that they're doing, refuse to allow documents in, that kind of activity. It's so appalling. It's so threatening. You're talking a RICO situation. You have two people testifying. Here's the direct evidence, still fragmented, still there in the court paperwork, which is a confession that involves the actions of three or more people. That's a RICO. It's an attack upon a candidate by two judges, a police officer. But yet it's witnessed, but the counter is witnessed by me, the Constitution, and by an attorney. And one of the instances, there was an attorney saying, no, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm the attorney, and that's what the law says, Your Honor. Here it is right here. You have to accept this, Your Honor. Oh, no, I don't have to accept that. Yeah, that was a big one. Oh, man, God, one of the court hearings I was at one time doing that. And it was amazing. People in the audience are like, oh, my God. They're like, did that just happen? That just happened, didn't it? The judge just do that? That just happened. They're just asking each other, did that happen? And they're like, yeah, that happened. And, so, and it was bad. There were some other things on it. It was really, really bad. So they're violating national security. They're causing delays. They're refusing to recognize certain laws. Oh, there was another one. Yeah, anybody who becomes displaced because of a man-made disaster, that the insurance company for those parties and that party become automatically your insurer of any deficit situations respective to anything, including insurance. This means if your auto insurance expires, but you're the victim of a chemical train wreck or a chemical plant fire or anything that's a man-made disaster, these people are automatically responsible. So then for them to conspire against an archive, the corruption there, just mind-boggling, the corruption, and how they want to cover up what their actions are. Mind-boggling. So yeah, this all spells more than three. It's a RICO. Actually, the full determination is they committed treason. They committed treason, and they left enough documentation behind to prove confession that they did it. So yeah, it's a summary judgment, partial judgment to treason on at least two of them, as I recall, to go through things. So, what am I going to do? Say, I'm going to order you people into an fMRI. We can relive the experience of what you did. You confessed right here in the documents. I had an attorney one time look on that. I had other people that reviewed it, some of the stuff in the past, on some of the things that some of these judges did on other cases, and they said, this is ridiculous. I had 3 law students do a write-up one time. They found some of the documents that I had on one of these other cases, and they wrote an opinion, and they said, this is the most ludicrous. There are so many flaws to this case. This is ridiculous. This man is clearly in need of assistance and is asking for completely reasonable and obviously needed assistance, and that was, and it disappeared. I can't find that thing on that anymore. So you have this disintegration of justice. We don't have permanent archiving when we need permanent archiving. It's a horrible situation, just horrible. So, yeah, it's getting late. Yeah, it's getting late. So, okay. Yeah, one of these days I'll dig out and I think I can email you. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. All right, bye.